Hello everyone, as you can see in our faces, we are all in a good mood here on the second day of the Galactic Collaboration Summit. I have invited two very dear friends, Robert and Christian, to talk about a very interesting topic today. Robert and Christian are two persons whom I would mostly trust to speak about automation. And this is a topic today which we with purpose chose a bit big sounding title session, or maybe even partly buzzword sounding the title session, which we are hopefully going to demystify this time. Robert is the CEO of the Austrian, and I would dare to say worldwide, business process automation company called FireStart. And Christian is funny enough, also an Austrian, but Christian is CEO of Docs42, which is a market leader in the document generation, document automation, and document-centric processes in the world. So I think it would be difficult to find more competent people to actually talk about what we are going to talk today. And my name is Adis Jugo, one of the hosts of the Galactic Collaboration Summit. I myself am Microsoft Regional Director and Microsoft MVP for Office Servers and Services and for Azure. So even if I did make a short introduction who the people with me today are, just a few sentences about yourself, Robert.
Sure. Yeah, thanks Alice for the introduction. My name is Robert. I'm founder and CEO of FireStart. Or as Alice stated, we are a lot in the business process management and workflow automation space. We really try to build end-to-end business processes and automate them the best way we can. We've been in the market for more than a decade. I work very closely with Microsoft partner and customer ecosystem. So I think that can be a really good connection to collaboration in general and how automation can play into this game on the longer run strategy. Yeah.
Christian, a few words about yourself.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, Christian Bauer, CEO of Docs42. Docs42 is a document automation software. We try to produce a document automation software that's the most intuitive to use, because we use Microsoft Office or Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, as we need to say, for template design. That makes it possible for citizen developers and business users to design their templates without deep IT knowledge. Also, there is data connectivity and process connectivity with basically all systems, of course with FireStart, but also SharePoint, Power Automate, Microsoft Teams, Microsoft Dynamics 365, and whatever you can think of, basically. And this is why we are here and are very, very proud to sponsor and to be part of Galactic Collaboration Summit.
So Robert, I need to admit you gave the title for this session. You named it. And that's the reason the first question to you, actually. What the hell is hyperautomation?
So hyperautomation is a term that was recently mainly used and developed by Gartner as one of the lead analysts in this space. And it's not a technology, it's more like an approach how you go into automation on a strategic level. Because this is also what you see in the market. You have different technology sets for different purpose for automation, and it's not about to look for the one-fits-all approach to cover everything, but it's more like about how you align different technology sets to an automation strategy, and this alignment is called hyperautomation in the terms of Gartner.
What do I need to understand? How should I picture that hyperautomation in my company? What's that?
So basically, hyperautomation covers different topics, a variety of topics where you build pieces of the puzzle of an automation strategy. One piece of the puzzle is, of course, about how you outline a business process before you go into the automation. So this is more really about the governance, the business purpose for automation, which is very often overseen about you do not just automation by fun, but you do automation actually to create a business value out of it. And this is kind of a core asset about an end-to-end business design before you go into the automation piece. Another topic is that very often you have technologies in place where you already have applications, but you don't really know what's going on within that application scope. This is, for example, where there's a new emerging technology rising called process mining, which helps you reconstruct all of the automation that is already in place, but it's not visible on a process level, so to say. On the other spectrum, we have kind of robotic process automation is also a very new topic, which helps you really automate user interactions on the front desk level. So they really take away repetitive tasks, as the term says, in a robotic way, so that you're freed not to be an Excel macro, but like have a robot in place that acts as an Excel macro.
Okay, you told us all the flavors about hyperautomation, what it means. From what I understood, is that hyperautomation actually is a term coined to cover all the different flavors of the process automation or any automation basically you've got in company. Might it be maybe I don't know standard process automation or RPA or document automation or whatever. So once you have got the whole strategy, it can go under umbrella of the hyperautomation.
That's exactly what it says. Which kind of automation fits which purpose, and how do these automation pieces align in a hyper-automation strategy? That's exactly what the term means at the end. Yeah.
Christian, where do I start?
Okay, I would try to answer this question with where not to start. One anti-pattern is that some clever IT guys want to play around with some clever tools, where they would better go to the Lego store, and that's because it's fun to play around with automation tools, yeah? But they might end up solving problems the company don't have. Another anti-pattern is automate everything. Automate everything now, yeah? Make a very, very big monster project out of it. The size you can never tackle. Okay, and then cancel it maybe because never meets any budget. What I would recommend is to start where it hurts. Start small, but start where it hurts. Look, where can you get an immediate return of investment? And thinking about document automation, go to your HR department, go to your sales guys, go to your contract people, and ask them how they are creating their documents. And you will be amazed, in 95% they will telling you, I'm copy-pasting. And it's very easy to calculate and return an investment on that. You can immediately see if you automate this, these people will be tremendously thankful in the first place, and it will save you tons of money. So you can get a return of investment. The average return on investment, break-even period of a Docs 42 introduction is about 3 months. So you can get immediate return on investment. Start with one document, with one process, automate that. Learn from that, how that worked out, how you can do that in a company, and then take the next one. So this is what I would recommend, to start where it hurts and small.
I had a friend, and this is actually a true anecdote, who back in the heydays of SharePoint form processing, you can remember those days around 2007, 8, 9, who took a post-it sticker. He put on his forehead and said, "I'm my document. I just entered your company. It's me, a document standing on the front desk. What do you do with me?" Mm-hmm. I think very often this situation in companies and different enterprises, they actually are not aware of the processes they've got.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, a lot of IT managers absolutely have no idea how documents are created in their company. And if you talk to the business people, they know, they do it, and they do it in a painful way because they're copy-pasting all the time.
Yeah, I see. So you spoke about return of investment and the Docs 42, it's under 3 months. Robert, you are in that space for decades now. We don't look that old, right? I mean, we are long in the business, but we don't look that old. When you talk to the people about return of investment in this space, what are your major points? What are your points? What do you mainly talk about?
Well, when you speak about process automation, you have a variety of aspects that you can take in consideration when calculating an ROI. So, of course, like the one topic is always like, how often do we run a process? Is it like really like once in a year? Is it 5,000 times a month? So the volume of a process is always a crucial indicator because it also multiplies about the improvement you can have with the multiplication of how often you run a process. That's I would say an easy doing math on the first attempt. Then it's about, of course, like automation means you want to free resources so that you can relay most of the automation on a workflow level to the system, and freeing human resources for doing these tasks manually. And of course, also that means how much touch points you have on the user level. You collect data, manipulate data, make decisions, and then decide on how much of that can you move actually to an automated level on the workflow side. An aspect that is very much overseen is about process stability. So what business value you can add by just having a stable process that is not just volatile. Yeah, if you look at Amazon, process stability is one of the highest aspects why you have that much of customer satisfaction.
Wait,
you're
not telling me that humans are prone to error.
Sorry?
You are not telling me that humans are prone to error, right? Humans make mistakes.
It's also about scalability. How fast can you scale a process when the load is higher? So that always like humans are not scalable. Yeah? You have a limited amount of resources, but automation is scalable, and that's one of the big benefits that comes in place. And of course, like if a process goes wrong, what errors or what damage can happen at the end of the day? This is also something you should take in consideration. Like if the approval was wrong and there is a follow-up effect on this wrong decision that can cause a lot of revenue turn down problems, like losing a customer. So when you're not running a process properly and supporting by automating it, it can also be that you lose revenue, you lose customers. That's also something that I would take in consideration when calculating an automation project from the scratch.
Actually, Christian will now patiently, because I have a follow-up question for Robert. I actually had this question for way later, but he just gave me a very good reason to ask. But are we not then basically fixing those processes that in a way that they are not changeable later? Because when human is working on a process, even if human is prone to error, even if it's costing us resources, the human can read the paper and maybe decide, okay, I'm understanding the situation, and maybe I'm not going to Christian with this, but I'm going to Robert with this, or vice versa, based on the understanding of context. And humans are able to adapt the process on the fly, based on the context change. How does that work with the automatized processes?
I mean, it works very well as long as you're using a tool where you can adapt a process or a document template, for example, in a very easy and quick way. If you can do that, you can adapt the process very quickly. Because I mean, if a process is done by humans, you cannot not change it immediately, because you would have to communicate to a lot of employees what to change if they need to understand it. If you have a process automated, you can change the process template and the process changed by that. If you rely on heavy coding and really code that all down, then you cannot change it. Then agility is gone.
I mean, in that regard, I also would comment that it's very much about governance and how fast you can adopt in a structured way to a new version of a process. And it's always about who's in the governance of making this adoption. Is it a central process standard where one adoption affects 1,000 users? Or do you have 1,000 individual automations in place that you need to also adapt 1,000 times if you want to bring it to a new version? And this is kind of where you always have kind of a conflict between, from an enterprise perspective, you want to have standardization. You don't want to have 1,000 variants of a process or an automation. On a human level, of course, you want to be very individually having automation capabilities. And this is something that you really need to design and augment on an architectural level, which again brings me to the hyperautomation topic. It's about how you can combine individual processes needs with enterprise standards and an automation, and leverage like the combination of these two approaches. But these are separate areas. This is about enterprise FireStart workflows versus individual flows that you can build for your personal flavor. It's just the way where you start. Do you either start from the enterprise requirement, or do you start from the personal need of a person?
Now you are giving me really the initiative to ask the next question, which I actually have here on my script on my left side. It's the governance. We have seen so many times in the past something which I called forms hell, infopath hell, workflow hell, whatever. Everybody is doing everything. It all looks grand in the beginning. We see now infopath migration projects plummeting throughout the whole industry. It's basically when it all starts well and then crushed at some point of time due to the sheer amount and to lack of any kind of governance and management. And this is not the first time we have seen it. You all remember Access databases and Excel sheets floating around companies causing the very same type of hell. How do I protect myself as a CIO? Again, clueless CIO. How do I protect myself of that not happening to me again and again with a new tool?
Well, fun fact, process also means having a governance process in place. Yeah? And I think that should be one of the first topics to think about when you want to start with automation. You also need to think about the governance process. So how do I get from zero to the first draft of the process? How do I build the automation on top of it? How do I test it? How do I stage it? How do I roll it out? Again, governance itself is a process itself. And like having a clear understanding of the governance of a process development and automation development in place at the very beginning is also a lot easier aligning all of the stakeholders later. Like who's responsible for adapting info platforms? Who's responsible for testing? Who's responsible for interfaces, for data connections? So you can separate also roles and duties when you have a clear governance process in place, and that kind of gives you more security that when you have to adopt, you can adopt in a quality safe and managed manner rather than in an individual chaotic manner, which very often happened back. Yeah? And it's again about, I think Access database and SQL Server is a perfect example for this. On an Access database level, I can build my personal flavor database, but everybody would do that. And the purpose of a SQL Server is that you have a central database where everybody can maybe build his individual form, but on the same data that is managed centrally. And this is the same rules apply for automation and process design. Governance is kind of really king for keeping the constraints and the manageability in game.
Mm. Okay. Same is true for document automation. On top of that, when we talk about document creation, customers normally start from hell because everybody has his individual templates with yellow areas marked in their Word templates and macros and stuff like that. So they start from hell. When they start with document automation, it's very easy to improve in governments because you have normally a few template designers. They can find a way to manage their templates very easily, so the improvement is immediate.
Mm. We mentioned in the before the traditional coding versus low code, no code, versus if you can separate this, what's a low code, what's a no code, and how we do this thing. I'm interested now in your. Obviously, we are rapidly moving towards the era where the standard business applications, standard business processes will be more and more developed on such tools. I've asked one of you, let's not be me telling all some of the tools, advantages of such a tool over the traditional coding, and we will see that the traditional coding will find their place more in the in the processes which are not customer or user facing, which are more system stuff development and this stuff. I am a developer, but I find that development actually is to be very good. But I have basically additional question to this difference between traditional low-code, no-code. I have another question about low-code, no-code. Who are they for? And what implications does it take with itself? Are they for professional developers using, trying to find a more agile and direct ways to build the processes, or to build the application? Or is it for citizen developers trying to help themselves?
I would not recommend to use heavy coding for real business applications, because who should be able to change these processes? It should be the business. It should be the citizen developers located in the business.
You are telling me it's not a developer who left the company 3 years ago.
Yeah, wait a minute. So they should be able to change the processes in the document template. So that means these applications should be no-code and low-code. But of course, then they need tools for that. And the tools, of course, they need to be coded. That's heavy coding. So what Robert developers and my developers are doing, we do heavy coding. We're creating the tools for that. There is a place for that. And then there is another place for at least low code or a bit coding. You need connectors. You have always systems in place, and you need connectors between these systems. In a perfect world, all our tools are perfectly connected. FireStart and Docs42, of course, but no, it's not. Right? There is always some special requirements where you need some special connectors, and that's also small pieces of code you need. So there is always a place for developers. And then there are other areas of performance, of security, and so where you need IT governance.
Robert, who is using FireStart? We see, for example, with Flow that it's used in the same. It's used both by citizen developers and professional developers, but I see that Flow is being used in a very different manner by those two groups. So it's a different way. What's your experience? Who are main users of FireStart?
So I would really see that like the low-code approach is the approach to go for in the long run. Because you will always have technical difficulties where you need to have code in place, but it should not be the majority, but it should be very exceptional to use heavy code for solving complex problems. But from a target audience, it's like if you look at the new generations that come to the market from an educational standpoint, they all are citizen developers from start. Yeah? So they all have all basic IT knowledge around how to use apps, how to design stuff, how to build forms. And that's kind of the new generation that is upcoming, and there will not be like this big divide between the heavy code users or the I have no clue about IT users, but like more and more majority of the users will have basic IT knowledge to also adopt on their own in terms of application design, document automation, workflow design. And the thing like being a super heavy software engineer doesn't prevent you using a low-code application. I mean, you don't want to lose too much time. The time to market aspect is kind of the crucial aspect here. Because we have a lot of heavy coders for building our own platform. Heavy coding needs time. It needs deep expertise, and it needs time to develop certain functions. And on the business level, very often you don't have the time to come up with these capabilities. So the flexibility to adopt quickly to change the application is very crucial there, and low code and no code reduces the. The citizen developer should stay in the personal automation part of the game. Yeah? So they should be able to automate to their personal purpose, but they should not be the one building automations for departments in cross application, because then you need to have different architecture, different governance in place, and that brings me back to the core separation. Enterprise workflow standards and automation standards is a different topic than personal automation. And citizen developers should be able to personally automate stuff on their own purpose. But building end-to-end automation is a topic for engineers, for people who know and understand IT architecture and build one automation for many users in the structure.
And this is where we make the full round and coming back to the governance and stuff, because we have witnessed, all of us, how personally built access databases became business critical for the whole departments. And this is why we need to to prevent that with the good governance policies and good management policies and good working together between IT departments and those business users actually making this possible without hurting ourselves. I have more 2 trivia questions for them to finish this in the more easy manner. The first one is one thing I'm definitely always asking myself, why is document automation was so neglected throughout last few decades of the process automation? We had these issues in SharePoint back in the days all the time. We have seen some consolidation on the market, but it is still very underrepresented, even if documents are essence of every business or mainly outcome of almost any process. Docs 42 is really in that business. So what's your take on that, Christian?
Yeah. First of all, it's quite different from a classic process automation. You have other complexibilities there, like intuitive design tools, preferably Word, Excel, PowerPoint. A business process doesn't work with Word, Excel, PowerPoint. You have the topic of output formats, of formatting, and so on. This is quite complex, this topic, but it's completely different from a business process. So this is the first thing. The second take is that, as I said before, a lot of IT managers are not aware how documents are created in their companies, because they have been created for decades in their company, always the same way, in a manual way, in the business department. And the IT managers say, okay, we have a process there, we need to automate the process, but forget that there, at the end of the process, there need to be a document created, a contract, an offer, a quote, an inspection report, something like that. So that's the reason, at least in my humble opinion, why it is, as you said, neglected. But world is changing now.
World is changing now, and with that I'm coming to the last question for both of you. Robert, can you tell us what is RPA?
Well, imagine software robots like as a really helping hand to humans, getting away repetitive tasks on the front desk level. You can bestly compare it like really to screen automation. Let's say, okay, always move up the cursor here, type in that, copy that, and maybe you do that 100 times a week. And then you can really build these small robots that kind of free you up for these repetitive tasks and give you kind of more time for the more creative, more innovative tasks that you want to do as a human. So it's really seen as an assistance technology to users really at the front desk level. But again, it's one piece of the whole hyperautomation puzzle. So again, don't fall into this, we can automate everything with this technology, because it's really focused to support on the front end level for the individual user and bring in these automation capabilities to the personal user. Build a robot for robots, for example. That would be kind of the approach with these technologies. And it's also very heavily used, for example, when you have a lot of legacy stuff. I mentioned the banking, finance industries, you have a lot of legacy code where you actually don't have modern APIs that you can just call and connect with a workflow document. And therefore you can like simulate a user interaction just to compensate the lack of APIs available, which is also a common practice point how you use RPA today to automate systems that actually don't have APIs to automate. That's kind of the approach for RPA.
So how I understood, please correct me if I understood it wrong, traditional workflows, what means traditional, but traditional workflows are usually always considered to do the things in the background. You kick off something, they do something. With RPA, we are trying to simulate finally also the foreground, the actual user interacting with those processes.
The term workflow already says it. It's about coordinating a flow over multiple users and systems. That's the purpose of workflow. But then if you're on a task user level, it's about, okay, how can I even be faster in doing this task on the user level? And that's kind of the scope where RPA comes in. To say, I send a task to Christian in the workflow, and that task would take Christian now half an hour to perform this task, and bringing in RPA technology to Christian maybe could lower the 30 minutes to 5 minutes just because of RPA assistance. Mm-hmm. But again, it would not replace the workflow, because the workflow is guiding the users and the systems and the robots. That's the purpose of the workflow, but the robot can enhance the capabilities of the individual included in the workflow.
Right. thank you very much, and see you in Wiesbaden.
Thanks, Adis. See you in Wiesbaden.
Thanks a lot. Bye, everyone. Take care.
Thank you for being a part of the Galactic Collaboration Summit. Join the community and meet in-person world-class Microsoft and MVP speakers this autumn in Wiesbaden, Frankfurt, Germany, with 15 full-day tutorials and over 150 Microsoft 365 and Azure sessions at the combined European Collaboration Summit and European Cloud Summit from 26 to 28 October 2020. Community rocks.